What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the fourth episode of Hot Takes, and today we're going to be talking about Phase 4 of the MCU, specifically its problems and the things that I want to fix, as well as our guests today. So, we're going to have this is a full show, and there might be other people dropping by. So, let's get right into it. So, first, we got Finbar. This is his first episode on the show, so I want to thank you.
Good evening,
What's up,
Blinded.
Finbar?
Not much, man. How you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Things are just things just exist. Like
Things are just happening.
yeah. Then we got also new to the show, Bob Bomernee. What's up,
Hello.
Bob?
How's it going? Good evening, gents.
Evening, Bob.
And then we also got an amazing monkey.
Hey,
regular
everybody.
Guest here.
Yeah,
Evening,
regular
monkey.
guest. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, man.
Doing good,
I'll-
thank you.
I'll keep coming, and you keep sending them bananas, Blinded. I'll keep coming to the show.
Okay, there might not be any more bananas left. I'm just
What? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we're supposed to also have Arkham. Arkham might be showing up. I'm not sure. I also sent the link to Aaron, but he gave me a maybe, so we'll see. But I guess we should start off just immediately into what's everybody's thoughts with Phase 4. So Finbar, you want to go first?
Extremely poor.
Oof.
Disjointed.
Big oof.
Overly long. Complicated. All over the place. Needs to be really, really tightened up for Phase 5, in my opinion.
Oof. I hope they can tighten up for Phase 5. So you want to? What do you think, a monkey?
For me, again, it was like there was so much that it was like it was quantity over quality, and I also felt like this is the first time in the MCU where I've picked and I've cherry picked what I want to watch rather than watch everything, because I usually just watch everything in the MCU, but this is the only time where I felt there was so much content that I feel like all of it was worth watching, and so that's the first time I've picked and chose what I was going to watch, and I think it really shows with this phase that the quality of the MCU has dropped, and it's dramatically, yes. And hopefully they do better in the next phase, but this phase was pretty disappointing.
And Bob, what do you think about Phase 4?
Yeah, I totally concur with Monkey and Finbar. It's been a very disappointing phase. I mean, I really appreciate the new characters which have been introduced, but the stories they've told, very disjointed, and yeah, lots of problems.
I think I'm pretty much in the same boat. I mean, everybody here or that was going to show up, and look who's here. Arkham is here. What's up, Arkham?
What's up?
Evening, Arkham.
You want to share your thoughts on Phase 4, since that's what we're talking about right now?
It's meh.
Yeah.
Half of the shows are trash. Like that are in Phase 4, and some of the movies in Phase 4 are not. It's not as like grand, like not as impressive as Phase 3 was. Like half of the things were good. A lot of things in Phase 4 were kind of trash.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we all kind of agree that there are issues. There's a lot of issues, like either individually with movies and shows, and then overall to the story that they're telling, because obviously Phase 4 is connected with the multiverse saga, and as we know, Kang is supposed to be the new Thanos, right? He is the overarching villain of this saga. So I guess how we're going to do this is we're probably going to go down the list, and so this one actually might be in parts. Like we might do this one show, talk about half of the phase, and then the next episode we'll talk about the rest. So the first Phase 4 show, because there was no movies at the time because of the cough, the coof, was WandaVision. So what is everybody's thoughts on WandaVision? I have a lot of things to say about this show, so let's bad thumbs up, let's go around and say thumbs up. Finbar, did you like it? Did you not
Yeah.
like it?
WandaVision, thumbs up.
Okay. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up. Yeah, definitely.
Arkham,
Thumbs up.
Monkey.
Thumbs up. Liked it until the ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we all agreeing that the ending was messed up? The show was good until the ending. Can we?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's,
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
It's easy to give it a thumbs up, but still dislike the ending. The fact that most of it was really entertaining. I don't really. I'm not saying I don't mind the ending being poor, but
Mhm.
I want, overall the show was okay. Can I just say, right, just quickly, right, before we move on and go deep into it? Obviously, this is the first phase where Disney Plus was a factor. I think Disney Plus has been a huge albatross around the MCU's neck. They've tried to fit all these shows in, and they've tried to, and this is the first time they've ever really interconnected everything with the movies as well that was in the TV shows. None of those TV shows previously, and you know my thoughts on this, Blinded, I've spoken about it ad nauseum.
Yes.
Those shows before were nothing to do with the MCU. Even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was not connected to the MCU. The MCU ignored it outright. But this is the first time these TV shows have mattered. And I think it was a huge, huge problem for them. It was
a
exactly
huge problem
what
for
I think it was, what Arkham just said. Quantity over quality was a big problem.
Yeah. And yeah, what were you gonna say, Arkham? Sorry.
Also, the big problem is like it. When it comes to like the MCU, like I'm fine with shows, but I don't like the idea of forcing. Like now you're have to get people to watch all these shows to understand basically everything now.
Yes,
That
which
the issue.
is key with this particular show, because this show is heavily in order to understand Doctor Strange, you need to watch this show, right?
Yeah.
And
Not like that.
and even because I've seen a lot of people, not to jump the gun and talk about Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange people, they didn't watch WandaVision. They never knew it was a thing, and they were confused as to why Wanda was a villain. And this is kind of the problem that I want to start off with is by the time we get to the ending of the show, I feel like you can kind of understand the position she's in, but I don't think she was full on villain just yet, right? Like I felt like they kind of rushed her into that in between this show and Doctor Strange, right? Because when she ends off, right, like she runs away, right? There's no she's not held responsible by anybody, right? By Shield or Sword, right? No one comes down on her.
In fact, she ends up better off because she's got the Darkhold and she's even more
Yes.
powerful by the end of the show. So she's rewarded for her actions.
Yes, it to me, instead of having the show be her descent, like, okay, she's dealing with the grief, but she doesn't know how to deal with it, and then that turns her, into the villain at the ending, right? Where it's like, oh, Agatha was not really the villain, right? She was actually trying to rein in her, right? Because she's the Scarlet Witch, she has all these powers, right? But instead, they do the typical Marvel ending where, okay, we have the big villain, they fight the hero, and then at the end of the day, everything is solved. In my opinion,
Wanda's arc ended way too heroically in that show.
Way too much.
Looked like it.
It doesn't make, especially knowing now where she is. Like now she's supposedly dead, right? We'll see, right? Supposedly
she isn't.
Yeah. So it to me, it just this is one of the problems that I'm like starting to realize is like, why, if you're going to make her a villain, just have an entire show that's building up to that. Like it should have ended off on a cliffhanger, to be honest, right? Like most Marvel movies kind of end in a way where it's like, okay, we know that there's a sequel, right? But with these TV shows, right? Haven't you noticed that it's all sort of like wrapped up really quickly and everything's resolved?
Yeah. In the last, it's usually resolved in the last episode or two with these shows.
Yeah. So like, what do you guys think about that? Like what?
Yeah.
Do you guys agree, disagree?
I agree with what happened in Wanda, especially because like everything resolved besides her kids not being there anymore. But like the consequences for actions is just that like I felt like the people that were trapped in the sitcom world or whatever, they should have been permanently like screwed out, like stuck. Whereas like where something happens to them because of her, and they can't fix the situation because of what she did. And for her to be like, yes, so like it's more like her actions actually have real consequences, right? How and she knows, she's like how powerful she really is and how she can destroy anything in her path if she misuses her powers. And it's like more of like what do you call it? It's a forgot the word, but like when you're kind of like trying to do something, but you're trying to, it's like for the future. Like you're trying to do something for the future. Like you're showing something.
Wait,
sorry,
preserve. I'm
not preserve. I forgot that word. Foreshadow. Sorry, foreshadow that she's gonna.
Okay.
You're foreshadowing like what she can do in Doctor Strange. So to do that, and I did feel that that her villain phase, like you said, it happened so quickly. It's almost like we missed a whole part of it. Like after WandaVision, and it's like she's just completely psycho in Doctor Strange. It's like, how did she go from being troubled to like, I gotta get my kids back, I'm gonna destroy everybody and go batshit crazy?
It's a pretty huge heel turn. Yeah.
Yes.
Even
if she is like, I've seen a lot of counter arguments saying, oh, this is like for her kids, and that's why she goes completely psycho. But I feel like even if you lose a child, this is not like the immediate response is like, I'm gonna go kill a bunch of people and blah blah blah. And it's like some type of redemption or revenge. Obviously that doesn't happen, right? But I just feel like it's such a traumatic change. Yeah, what were you gonna say, Bob?
One explanation is given, kind of, that the Darkhold corrupts her and makes her more excessive in her thoughts and powers.
And my response to that is, we still should have seen it. We should have seen her with the Darkhold building up to that point where it's like, okay, there's no return, and you start to see her corruption instead of it being like, oh, she's immediately corrupt, and we're supposed to know that the Darkhold did this, right? Like the Darkhold should have been established in WandaVision, right? Like that should have been immediate, right? This is the Darkhold. This is what it does, right? Get people familiar with it, or get fans familiar with it, so then people are not like, oh my god, where did this come from, right? We're, like, now people have to kind of like research and realize, okay, what's going on, right? So what do you think, Finbarr?
Well, if you want to know how I would have fixed it, because I think we're all on the general consensus that it was a good show up until maybe the last episode.
Yes.
What I would have how I would have ended it, I would have had Wanda chased off at the end by Photon, Maria, whatever her name is, whatever she's going by in the MCU, and I would have had her be the hero of it. Her along with Jimmy Woo and the annoying one from Thor.
Oh, you're talking about
the three,
Monica.
So Monica powers up in this show. Sorry. So have her be the hero of it in the end. Have her chase off Wanda, so she can end up in the mountains with her in her cabin in the woods with the Darkhold. But have her chased off the screen instead of that heroic, the walking away heroically at the end of it, like she did. I know some of the townspeople were looking at her like, oh, they're scared of her, but that's not enough for her to make that. Like Monkey was saying, there's a massive heel turn that happens in Doctor Strange, and it happens right out of nowhere. Just have her chased off screen. So have her have Vision disappear, have her chased off screen. So the two main characters of that show are basically out in in the wind at the end of it, and you have your core group there. The people that were chasing them down. Have them be the heroes. I don't understand why they didn't do that, and it was because they were trying to do a paint by numbers TV show, or a paint by numbers Marvel. And this is the problem that they've done with all the TV shows, aside from maybe She-Hulk, which was so far off the rails, which we'll get to later.
Yes,
that I can't even call it paint by numbers. I honestly, my brain broke at that point, and
it's and you know what's something I'll add on to you that I was just realizing, they should have not have the kids in the ending, right? Like they should have disappeared in like the 8th episode, right? Because it was 9 episodes. Make them disappear, right? Everything breaks loose, and then that's when you have that ending, right? Instead of them like being there and then eventually they disappear because everything is broken. Like it feels too much like, they want to have that like somber, bittersweet ending, but then also tie it into, oh my God, this is going to progress into, the Young Avengers, Doctor Strange, all these plot threads, right? So it's like they got to make it in a way where it feels more impactful if you're just watching it stand alone, and then also you as a fan, right? Because now you're like, oh my God, like her kids are gone. We all know what happens, but what's that last episode going to entail, right? And before we talk about the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I should say, Ralph Boner, get rid of Ralph Boner. That whole setup, that whole setup will be infamous, right? Because it's so bad, it makes no sense why the writers set up this thing, right, that we all know was gonna pay off, right? That this was supposed to be the first introduction of the multiverse. You have what's that actor's name? Evan Peters come back playing a character that he doesn't play in the MCU, right? He Aaron Taylor Johnson is Quicksilver. So now you got everybody excited thinking, "Oh my God, you brought back this actor who's in the Fox movies playing an MCU character who's already dead."
And they're going to do it.
It goes
later.
nowhere.
And the crazy thing is they're going to do it with Wolverine. Why not have just done it with Evan? Evan Peters.
Yeah, Evan Peters. Yeah, it makes, and what's going to be I'll make a bet here, right? I'm not making another bet with Finbarr, but like I'll make a bet here saying they will bring back him in Secret Wars as Quicksilver. It is so painfully obvious that they're going to now course correct with this stupid little joke, right?
I wouldn't make that bet with you because I agree. I think that's exactly what
this is what they're gonna do to retcon, right? They're gonna have Ralph Boner come back in Wonder Man, and then you're gonna also have Quicksilver, the Fox version, come back in Secret Wars. So
wait. What did you just say? Did you
Ralph
say
Boner?
Man?
Yeah, in Wonder Man, he's going to be in Wonder Man.
Confirmed. Shit, right? Okay.
Yes,
What,
he's going to have some role. I don't know to what extent. It'll probably be like a cameo. It'll probably be like the Mandarin in well, not the Mandarin. His Trevor. What's his name?
Yeah.
Yes,
Trevor
in
Slattery.
Shang-Chi, where he kind of shows up and then, what I mean, they kind of like course correct, right? So they got to stop doing this course correction because now we have two examples of them doing it. It's just ridiculous. Like, I don't understand. But anyway, moving on. Did anyone else want to say anything before we move on? Because we're gonna go at break speed. Trying to talk about all these movies.
I got a quick thing which I've been sitting on for a little while. I have to rewind a little bit. I think that the major problem with Phase 4 so far has been this attempt, and it's evident in WandaVision, where towards the end of the shows they just ramp it up to stupid like levels where it's affecting like mass things and causing major problems, which they need to tone down. And I kind of feel they kind of needed to completely maybe scrap Black Widow, do a Kang movie straight at the beginning of Phase 4, do something big and dramatic, kill off a bunch of characters again at the beginning of Phase 4, and then cool down. And if we're going to get this quantity over quality thing, it should be kind of more consistent and a little bit more grounded. Instead of having every show be like a big dramatic thing, they don't need this big dramatic ending at the end.
Jesus, man. Bob wants to do a Thanos snap.
He wants to do it right at the beginning. I mean, that would have been...
Because, like, how can you top... You
a little bit more interesting.
You can't top Phase 3, and I kind of feel maybe... This is why they've been so quality over quantity, is they knew they're not going to top Phase 3, so why bother putting in the effort for Phase 4?
Yeah.
Phase 4 just feels like another setup. Like, it just feels like Phase 1 and 2, like where you're going slowly and slowly you're going into another big event in like Phase 6 or some shit. It's like, it's like we just
I don't think anybody wants to do that again.
Yeah, now we have to wait another, like, 2
years.
phases for this whole thing to come together. It's like,
but these phases are now going at like breakneck speed.
Yeah,
right. Like where it's like
I mean,
almost
that's
like
just
a year and a half.
Well, that's because they just throw everything in like a year. They just throw a bunch of content a year or something, right?
You're getting like 6 titles a year when you used to get maybe 2 or 3 movies.
Yeah,
and that's why they don't feel special anymore. Like they don't feel like, oh my god, it's like that movie and then that movie. Like before, it was like 2 movies a year, so it feels a little bit like an event. You're going to watch the next part of the Marvel universe, but now it just feels like, man, I could just sit at home, just watch the next thing that comes out. It's just they throw it all out. Yeah, it's just like whatever. It doesn't feel special. That's I think that's like the major thing about it, like dropping in quality, because it just does not feel big anymore.
Now, as for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, what do you guys thoughts on this show? Because this is another kind of weird show.
It's a show that I don't have a major issue with, because I'm like, it just feels like a continuation of that Captain America storyline. So it's all right, like it's okay. Like I mean, it does say something, right? It does try to say something, which is a little bit different, right? About the racial issues and all that stuff, and so it's like it does try to represent something and more evolve the Marvel universe in a different way. So it's like, we know what Sam and him accepting the Captain America role, him being a black man, and him saying that people don't, or maybe people want that, or it's like, do people want that, or is Captain America an old thing that's from the 40s and should it be brought back? What does Captain America represent? Does it represent freedom, or does it represent American,
which I have to say conflicts with the purpose of the show?
I mean, sure, you can say that. I mean, the show, that's the thing. I feel like at least it does do more interesting things.
Because if you think about it, I don't know how anybody else feels, but this show, right? By the time you get to the ending and he's Captain America, and they've set up this whole the problem of Captain America in a sense of, obviously the second Captain America, Isaiah Bradley, what they did to him, right? And Sam Wilson kind of realizing, hey, should I really adopt this mantle, right? But then he adopts it anyway, and he doesn't even. And here's another thing too, right? This is going to be one of my problems. He doesn't take the serum. He's like, I don't want to take the serum because of obviously the issues with it. But now, how is he supposed to go up against all these characters? He's he's Captain America. He's front and center. How is he going to take a bullet for the team if he one bullet, he's already dead?
Well, he took the bullet for the team. Then there you go. You took the bullet. But
it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's my biggest problem with the show, and I have a second problem.
I feel like it's also like trying to evolve.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Bob?
Well, doesn't he end up with vibranium wings from Wakanda?
Sure, but like the vibranium wings. Okay, he has armor, right? But I'm still feel like
he's fast too.
He can fly. He has armor, but that's really it, right? Like,
but he has
I
a
feel
shield.
like that's
he has a shield.
It's not enough for Captain America, in my opinion, right? Like, there's a lot of other characters that already have that, the armor and the flying ability, right? So it's just like, to make Captain America just that, I feel like, just make him a super soldier.
I think the thing you're missing, Blinded, to be honest, is that Steve Rogers handed him the shield, right? So he handpicked him. However,
I understand that part.
I agree with you saying that his emotional wrestling with the decision of whether he should take the mantle or not wasn't long enough, and it wasn't. There wasn't enough emotion behind it. The Isaiah Bradley stuff I loved.
I like that part too.
Yeah, anybody who's read Truth will know that stuff's quite made me emotional. I'm not a black man. It made me emotional though.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's
another one of those things where the ending didn't live up to. Like Bob said, they tried to force everything into the last episode again, like they've been doing every TV series, and it's a nice slow burn up until that point.
I'm just not the biggest fan of Captain America Sam Wilson, just because in the comics there was like it's just sort of happens, and you're like, okay, when Bucky was Captain America, it made sense, right? This was the second person. There was some resistance. I understand, yes, that Steve gave him the shield, right? But my problem is, if you're going to be Captain America, then you should just be full on Captain America, right? Like, understand, okay, if I take the serum, there's the history behind it. I understand what the writers were trying to do, but it just conflicts with, this is a superhero show. We need to have the character have the serum. And I know he doesn't have the serum in the comics, but that's always bugged me. It's like, Just take the serum. Like,
I think
we know what's gonna happen, right? It's just like a little thing.
I think he will. Depending on what happens, like maybe the character gets hurt really badly and he has to take the serum or whatever, and they go, there you go, take the serum. Now he's Captain America. Now he has the superpowers.
But then
or whatever.
now it would be.
But he does it because he but I mean, he does it because he has to. It's not like you can write it in a way that he doesn't want to do it, but he knows that, hey, if I have to live and I need to take this thing, then I'll take it. I'll sacrifice. I won't my pride. I won't let my pride take over what needs to be done. And maybe that they can write that into the character that he does take the serum,
but he understands the history and the complications. But he still, I'm saying, like, Captain America literally has a one-off face-off with Thanos in Infinity War, right? You can't, and I'm only saying this as like a fan. I'm not really talking about it from a story perspective. I'm like more so the characters and just the mantle of the character, right? Mm-hmm. I can't see Captain Falcon, we'll just call him Captain Falcon, going up against Kang and his army or all these other characters, right? It to me, I'm like, I can't really see that, right? I don't know. It's just maybe a personal thing, but I don't know. What do you think, Arkham? Because I want to hear your thoughts.
I do kind of agree with you with the serum thing, because if you're going against something like Thanos, or you kind of need that upper, like that kind of serum going against the big bad and stuff like that. Yes, he has vibranium ring, like whatever he has with the armor, he has shield. I don't think that would be enough. I feel like there probably has to be some kind of serum to go against big bads. I do agree where you're coming from. Yeah, I do.
It's a small thing. I know Finbarr, Bob don't really agree, but like that was the one thing that bothered me. But there is another thing that I think we could potentially agree on, because this one came out of nowhere.
Shannon Carter.
Yes. Do you want to explain this? Because this, I will never understand why they did this. It doesn't make sense. That was
so random.
I don't know if they knew they were going to do this from the very beginning.
I don't think so. I think
this was tacked on. I mean, I knew they cast Emily Van Camp in the show, but I think maybe this was written last minute. Or let's make her the secret. Yeah, what is it they called her? What did they call her in the show?
The power broker.
Yeah,
power broker.
This was because this is kind of.
I thought Shadow Broker.
Tie this up.
Oh, no, it's Power Broker. It's Power
Broker. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have to tie this loose end up, and who's she talking to at the end? Is it confirmed that it was Val or?
Yeah, was it Val or was it?
Or was it
I
Ross?
can't even remember.
I don't know, but they're gonna have to tie this loose end up, and I'm assuming they will in Captain America 4 because General Ross is showing up.
I feel like is going to be. In my opinion, this is going to take 2 movies to resolve, because as of right now, Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts are like connected.
Yeah.
This is I mean, we'll get to that when that happens, but I feel like those 2 movies they're going to be not good movies. That's my big prediction, right? I think everything else will be okay, but those movies will be really messy, right? And it's because of kind of this show's fault too, right? Where it's like it focuses a lot on Falcon, which is understandable, but then it completely kind of, ignores the Winter Soldier, right? He does have an arc in the show. I'm not gonna try to say they didn't do anything with him, but by the time you get to the ending, you're kind of like, I feel like you could have done something different with this character, right? Like this whole redemption and putting himself back into society. I feel like that should have already been done since Civil War, right? Like you had a good amount of time where you could kind of right your wrongs, right? So, and then I think I would be okay with it, but knowing now that he's essentially going to be like a Rick Flag character to the Thunderbolts, where he's not leading them, but he's the yeah, well, that's what he is, because he's on the Thunderbolts, right? It's like, why would you put Bucky on the Thunderbolts with a team of kind of neutral villain characters, right? If he's not a villain, he's not a villain anymore.
Is he still the Winter Soldier, or is he going to be called like Nomad or something?
I mean, he might be Nomad. Who knows what they'll call him? But I just think it's weird. Yeah. It's like, okay, now all of a sudden he's that type of character that's leading a team of neutrals and villains. Well, what do you think about this, Finbarr? Because I don't know. I'm confused. I
don't know if I'm on the same page as Thunderbolts is going to be a mess. I don't think it will be. I think they'll put quite a lot into that. Captain America 4, on the other hand, yeah, I can see that becoming a bit of a mess. Just
there's a lot of loose ends.
Yeah, just because of some of the loose ends that were left with this. But I think I've got my thoughts on what I think Thunderbolts is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've told you before. I think it's going to be a bit of a cock-up movie where they fail. Their failure leads into not the Young Avengers, not so much the Young Avengers, because I think it will be these new Avengers rather than the young ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have to team up to take Kang on, and then that's when I've already explained what I think will happen with Secret Wars as well. But it's Thunderbolts for me will lead on from this, and they'll have to do a lot of repair work to what they've done, to what they've left hanging in the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And also, when you think about how long ago that show was, it's not going to be fresh in people's memories.
No, I'm already losing track of that entire show.
I'll have to go back and watch it again before Captain America comes out.
Like, it had good action in it. It was, and the stuff with U.S. Agent, I think, was probably like as a reflection to Isaiah Bradley. Like, it was done well, right?
Yeah, U.S. Agent was great. And a point to make on the action, like you were bringing up there, that first scene was outstanding for a TV. I've never seen anything like that in a TV show. That was movie level stuff.
Oh, the action scene.
The one where he's fighting against Batroc in the sky. That was amazing.
The show kind of felt just like a really long movie, right? It's how it felt.
But a movie that has too much going on.
There's that's why it's 6 episodes.
Flag Smashers. There's the U.S. Agent, Isaiah Bradley.
So in Captain America,
Falcon and Winter Soldier. There's so much stuff going on in that show.
So then in Captain America 4, aren't they going to have U.S. Agent and like?
U.S. Agent's on the Thunderbolt.
Yeah, but so Captain America 4, what do you think is going to happen in Captain America 4?
Well, he's going up against the leader in Captain America 4.
And there's a lot of stuff happening in that movie.
Okay.
Supposedly Red Hulk is going to make an appearance.
I think that's where he'll so because they've cast
Harrison Ford,
Han Solo. Yeah. So I think he'll take the serum in that film, but I don't think you'll see Red Hulk on screen.
Oh, I don't think Red Hulk is going to be in Thunderbolts, though. I mean, I think they're going to have to.
I think I'm going to disagree with that. I think Red Hulk will be in the Thunderbolts, even if
it is
at the end.
If it is, Finbarr, this movie is going to be a mess.
It's going to be
you do realize
they can do it right. No, if they do it right at the end, so they get their ass kicked right. This is what I think. Get their asses kicked, and Ross is like, "What do I do now?" And he looks at this vial of serum. the same stuff.
Sentry's supposed to be in this movie too. But
Sentry, is that confirmed? Because I don't know.
There's a big. I'm certain it's going to happen. What were you going to say, Bob? Sorry.
I was just like, what Sentry's in the Thunderbolts?
Yes.
I don't see that happening. I don't think so. Sentry's too OP. He's too OP to be in this.
There's a big rumor that he's going to be in it. Yes.
Do you think he's going to be? Do you think he's going to be villain though?
Yes, I think he's going to be the villain.
Okay.
The rumor that I heard is that this. First off, I say that Thunderbolts is going to be a mess because it is almost sounds like a carbon copy of the first Suicide Squad movie. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like they have a bunch of characters. They're trying to get who knows what. Something goes wrong. And one of the team members turns into a villain, which would be Sentry. And they have to now fight off Sentry. And it also seems like it's going to connect with Eternals with, what's it called? At the ending, when the thing is coming out of the earth, the Celestial is coming out of the earth. Yeah, so
that's another one as well. That is supposed to be where they're going to mine adamantium from.
Yes,
from
supposedly.
inside that celestial, which is a good idea. I
Yeah.
think.
So is
But-
that why Sentry isn't in the like? Because they have they announced the characters that are in the Thunderbolts, but they didn't
Yes.
announce Sentry. So is that why Sentry's not there?
I
Because it's
assume
supposed to be a
he's also not
surprise?
there because they haven't cast him as well.
Oh, okay.
They're
There's like
keeping some things back. I think they also.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true, but I think there was word that Ghost might not even be in it.
Oh,
yeah, and then
Was that debunked?
Yeah, it was debunked by the same person who said that. Yeah, I don't even know why they would even say that and then stir up shit, and then it wasn't true. It was like,
For the clicks,
yeah,
man.
that
Yeah, but
their credibility
isn't
worth.
isn't
Yeah.
that character already in the the art or not the whatever?
Yeah,
the
it wouldn't make
cover?
any sense to cut her out
Yeah.
of it when she's been in the promo photo.
Do you
well,
think
they
that-
had the actor on stage.
She came on
too.
stage. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
on
it doesn't
stage.
make sense. Yeah,
Do you think that the 2020 was it 2021 or 2022 the Suicide Squad the James Gunn movie? Do you think that might have like affected Thunderbolts? Like they're like, oh, we should make a dark comedy or something you know, because
I don't think. I think they wanted to have their own Suicide Squad.
yeah. So
that
Thunderbolts
makes the most amount
do
of
you
sense.
so you do think it's going to be like a darker, like a comedy, like a dark comedy?
No, I
like,
think it'll be an MCU movie that plays out like Suicide Squad. That's what I think.
but not as violent because
No,
No,
it's
no,
an
no
MCU
way.
movie.
they want the kids to come.
There won't
Well,
be any-
it's an MCU
There won't be any
movie.
dicks enough.
Yeah.
No dicks, no, unfortunately.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess to keep because we're 30 minutes. We're gonna have to go
We're not-
super.
We're gonna
Oh
cut
my
don't
god,
know.
we're only on the second one. We're only on the second one too.
We're gonna have to
That's
quarter
funny.
this.
This is a lot. I mean, we have. I feel like one we could skip because I don't have a problem with it. I think it has a good setup. Is obviously Loki. This is the next.
Oh yeah,
show.
that's the best
Yeah,
one.
Loki
I think
was
that's
great.
You
the
can't skip Loki.
best thing to come out of the Phase 4 MCU, hands
Yeah,
down.
yes.
Loki
It has
was
to
very
be.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think we're all in agreement that the show. Like I can't really name a problem. I think the show should have been instead of WandaVision, Loki should have came out first, but
Yeah.
obviously that's not how things played out because it would have made a lot more sense and
Yeah,
then
because
people would have
Kang
been
shows up.
because
Yeah.
Kang and all that stuff. So I don't really have any problems to fix per se with this. So does anybody have anything to say like or they
No,
have an
even
issue?
even the last episode was very good because it wasn't
Yes.
just an action packed ass kicking. It was them sitting at a table talking, and that was great.
And
Yeah.
it was
Him showing up on
consistently-
screen. So just having Jonathan Majors show up
Yeah.
was
And the thing was, it was consistently good. Like there
Yeah.
was never an episode that I went, "Oh, that's a bad episode." Every episode
Yeah.
was just good and great or whatever. But it was just like, yeah, that's surprising because like you had the previous shows and you're like, oh, they were kind of like, oh, except for WandaVision, maybe Falcon, but WandaVision was really good until bam. But like Loki is just like consistently
Consistently.
like so good. You're like, yes, 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 give me more of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I know a lot of some people feel like, oh, it downplayed Infinity War and Endgame, which I don't believe that. That's not true.
well with
I
the
think that-
gems and stuff like
With
that.
the
it's not
gems
really-
and all of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like they explain in the show that there's other timelines that don't matter, and that's why they have the stones, right? It's because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is paperweight. It's not meaningful to the actual plot. And now in that show, the multiverse is created. It hints at a lot of stuff, right? It hints at Secret Wars, the whole premise of Secret Wars, right? Of Battle World, right? In the first episode, they hint at that, right? So this show is very important, and I think a lot of people will just sleep on it or they kind of ridicule it because it's a time travel show, it's a multiverse show, and it's very MCU, but it's good MCU in my opinion. This is what they should be doing.
I would say the show that trivialized the Infinity Saga the most wasn't this. It was What If.
Yeah, and
What
which
if?
is the next show
Yeah,
after Loki.
I could have done without What If. It was okay, but I don't think it was
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
I don't
liked
even really
the-
have too much to say about that show either
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. Did you like it, Arkham or Bob?
I had to
liked
force
the
myself
Loki.
to watch it. Sorry.
I watched it. I really liked it. Out of all of the, I guess, Disney Plus shows, Loki is my favorite.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair.
It's very, very good.
Yeah, the what
Yeah,
if?
and what if it did something too? It redeemed Ultron because Ultron was brutally, just destroyed,
Yeah,
like absolutely
redeemed-
terrible character.
It
Yeah,
redeemed
they
Ultron. It
redeemed him.
Ultron
It made
by
himself like
trivializing Thanos.
Yes,
he's scary.
yes.
He's actually terrifying. Unlike in Age of Ultron, I gotta kill everybody because he named sucks. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Like
We're gonna have to eventually at some point talk about Age of Ultron because that movie is just
It's so weird that it actually
just that one movie itself. I have a bunch of things to say. So yeah,
I never hated Age of Ultron. I thought it was okay.
Thank you.
There's so many plot lines in that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot
never brought up again.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing that bothers me the most about it.
The one I think the character with the weakest story in Age of Ultron was like Thor, because like what the hell was he supposed to do? Thor, yeah, I think Hulk had a bigger impact than Thor because Thor just goes, walks around, leaves, jumps in some water.
Well, he has the whole setting up of Thor Ragnarok, but
that's the way they set it up. It's like they set it up as it's going to be like a really dark, like deep thing for him, but then you get to the Ragnarok and it's a comedy. So it's like what the fuck was that before? It's like whatever.
This doesn't. It makes no sense. But I guess we could skip these two and actually get into a movie that I'm not actually sure everybody's thoughts on Black Widow. This is the next movie we're talking.
Okay.
This is the first movie in Phase 4.
Here's the thing. Black Widow. I thought like. At first, when I watched it, I was like, I liked it, but like now, I think it's like more it's all right. Like it does nothing too terrible and nothing too great. Like it just does the middle of the road thing. You know, it's like
it affected nothing. Yeah,
it affected nothing. It just gave some explanation on her Natasha's character, what she did before. It ruined Taskmaster because Taskmaster in the comics is. Like he is an incredible character. The fact that the more he remembers about you, the more he learns about you, the more he forgets about himself. That is such a cool character. And in the movie, it's a girl that got blown up, and now she's Taskmaster. And it was a dude doing all the stunts, and it was a girl. It was really weird. It was like, why don't you just get a female stunt?
We'll get into some of the problems, but like I want to hear Bob's and Arkham's thoughts on Black Widow.
I really enjoyed it mostly. It was good seeing more of Black Widow. I thought the action bits were good. The one scene in that movie which ruins it for me is when Black Widow just smashes her face against the table to stop mind control. That's like the dumbest thing ever.
Also the broken nose. Was it the broken nose?
Yeah, she breaks,
so she couldn't smell the pheromones, or
that's
weird.
Well, no, she smashes her face on the table to sever a nerve. In her face, and it's like, well, there's so many other ways you could have solved this, like a bit of distance and a gun.
Yeah, it was. It's a. I don't even really know what to say. Like, it is meh. Like I'm not like so excited about the movie, and I think my only real big issue is the fact that it's a prequel. I should say that it's a prequel. I think it being a prequel feels it doesn't really like I could have done without it, right? Like, and then Taskmaster. I think Taskmaster is probably the biggest problem. Like I think the best part of the movie is Yelena, right? I feel like she should have just been the protagonist.
Definitely.
And I mean, one thing I would like to see is I thought the Black Widow movie was building up to a Black Widow show, going to be kind of like an espionage, finding all these Black Widows, finding out what they're involved with in different like political wars and regimes around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like and that got me really hyped for a show like that. And then where is the show?
That's what I believe this should have been, Bob. When this was delayed constantly over and over again, I felt like this should have been taken, broken up, maybe some stuff reshot and released on Disney Plus as a 2-part or a 3-parter, just to get it out, because it felt very Falcon Winter Soldier, very.
Yeah,
Well,
dude.
there's
Two
actually one
pages.
thing that I think it does again that Civil War did, where you have this idea that you're going to fight like 6 Winter Soldiers, and then you find out they're all shot and they're dead. Where in Black, yeah, it was stupid, right? And then in Black Widow, you have this idea the Black Widow are scary. They are scary. They're terrifying, and they will kill you. And I was like, okay, so imagine a scene where they're she's like in a facility, and it's going, the lights are red and they're all coming after her, and she has to fight all of them. That would have been a cool fight scene, but they never did anything like that. The Black Widows are just there. They never felt like they were a terrifying force. They just felt like whatever, just some spy kids or something.
And then they get released in the end. So.
They get released, and it's like, they're supposed to be terrifying. The best agents in the business. They're supposed to be straight up killers.
Yeah,
and I never felt that in the Black Widow movie. So I was like, whatever.
What do you think about some of these problems, Arkham?
With Black Widow, I think it was a meh movie. My problem was the problem I had was Taskmaster. Oh my god, they were Taskmaster.
Taskmaster, just poor guy.
It's
I think and it feels out of place. The movie didn't really need to happen. The only reason why they I think the only reason why the movie didn't happen is I think person in charge, I guess, of Disney wouldn't let Black Widow happen.
Oh yeah, that was Ike Perlmutter, but I think that was kind of like they wanted to do a Black Widow movie for quite some time, and then they finally got to it, and at that point it was kind of irrelevant, right?
Like, she was dead. She was dead at that point.
Yeah, because it felt like a movie that was just there to introduce Yelena, right? And it felt like the main characters. It's like we see her die, so it's just like we don't really care.
I think
anymore.
I think what if I had to fix the movie, the first thing I would fix is that Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, is a side character. Like she is the supporting to Yelena. Yelena is the main character, right? And then that's how you introduce. Like you can have the opening sequence, you could do all that stuff, but like when it comes to like the person who has the character arc, right? Like it's Yelena, and it's almost like she is like the opposite of Natasha, where it's like she's going downhill because she needed the program, and now that Natasha's exposing them and going after them, she's like, hey, you can't do this. This is my livelihood, right? It's like what's going to happen if they fall, right? So it's like almost like a weird situation where it's like she's obviously being abused, but she still needs it. I think it would have added a little bit more interesting commentary, because there was some interesting commentary in Black Widow, but I don't know. I just feel like it needed a little bit more. And also too, I think I would take out that whole action sequence toward the ending. To me, it felt. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but it doesn't really fit Black Widow at all. Yeah, like this whole flying in the sky and stuff. What do you think?
It felt like Fast and the Furious, to be honest.
Yeah,
like it felt like it came from that movie, because like Black Widow is a grounded character, so it's like, what are they doing? Right? Yeah. Like it just goes crazy. And I think Bob said that or something, where all these movies end with some big, crazy, out of this world bonkers event. It's like, why? But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it is. What do you guys think, Finbarr and Bob?
Yeah, I would probably. Amazing Monkey's idea of having a big facility fight in the dark world of the Black Widows would have been much better than the thing falling at the sky or whatever the hell was happening at the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the CGI was poor there as well, so they could have just done a lot more grounded. It was pretty bad compared to what they've done.
And it's a movie that was in like they had a long time to fix out the VFX, right? So it just shows you that they really don't really care, because like they have a movie that was just sitting there for a whole year and they didn't bother fixing it.
They just needed to shit that thing out as quick as they could, because how long? Because everything was held up. Every single thing got held up by that, and it made me resent that film, because I was waiting on that stupid film coming out so that we could watch all the TV shows.
Yeah, I know, right? That was the.
But there's no TV, but there's no Black Widow TV shows. It's just like it's just there. It feels so out of place, doesn't it?
Because like
It is
every
out of
other
place.
movie,
It's exactly that.
It
It's
is.
exactly that. It's a movie that takes place within the timeline of Phase 3.
yeah, because it
And it should have happened in Phase 3. Otherwise,
Yeah,
don't bother doing it.
the movie felt
Yeah,
like
pretty
an
much.
epilogue to Phase 3. To be honest, because
It should have. That's what it should have been, right?
yeah, because every other movie felt like it's a grander story, right?
Yeah.
And then Black Widow, it just felt like it was a very personal story, very grounded about these characters, and it's like, yeah, it just feels out of place. Like
Mhm.
it maybe would have been a better TV show, but I mean, who really wanted
But
that at
Scarlett
that point?
Johansson probably wouldn't do a TV show.
Yeah, she
So
wants.
it doesn't make sense.
So it doesn't. That's the thing. But that's the thing. The movie doesn't make sense at this point. Right?
What
Yeah.
I did like though, I will say this, and I know it's probably just they've done it off the cuff in the end, because the first time, and I don't like what they did with Taskmaster. I'd rather it wasn't that character, but the way they foreshadowed Dreykov's daughter in the first Avengers film,
Yes.
he said to her when he was in that in the Hulk prison.
Hmm.
He mentioned it to her, and it was one of those things that you just think that's going to be a loose end. It doesn't get tied up, but this did tie it up, and I liked that. I liked how they foreshadowed it so far in advance.
Yeah, there was some. I mean, even the Budapest, like, people may see it as anticlimactic, but I think it is. Yeah, like I think a lot of people were kind of wanting to see some of the stuff that was previously referenced, in scenes with her character, because she's not really explored much, and it's kind of unfortunate. I kind of understand why, because I always felt like, and maybe this is just like a blind spot, like this is where I would have asked Tony, right? Is like I really feel like Black Widow as a character in the comics is not explored all that much. Like she has, I mean, she doesn't really have a lot of runs. A lot of Avengers comics, like back then when it was like focusing on kind of the B characters, right, that didn't get their solo issues, she wasn't there. I know she has a relationship with Daredevil, but like she's a character that I just feel like she's a spy, and
It's not explored.
She's not, yeah. Like they need to do something compelling with her than just like she's a spy, right? But I guess that's gonna have to end the Black Widow talk. And
one more thing that I think you said about the Budapest thing. I think there was a thing with fans that people didn't like that part, because in the Avengers movie Budapest, when they're shooting the aliens, her and Hawkeye, they're talking about Budapest as if it was fun or it was some funny thing, right? Like, haha, remember Budapest? But it was like in the movie, they blow up a kid, they kill a kid. It's like, what the fuck, Hawkeye? What's wrong?
That is a good point. Yeah,
makes him sound like a sicko. Okay.
I think,
when Loki mentions to her about Dreykov's daughter, you can see something horrific has happened there, and I thought they were gonna bottle out of it and not explain it. But they did. She blew a kid up. That's pretty fucking horrific. So
yeah, it is.
At least they did explain it in the end.
I think the Budapest, the fun and games is more so their relationship, of how they, which is not really shown, right? Like he doesn't even appear. You just hear him.
When you're doing something, don't want to delve too deep into my own personal life here, but when you're away doing something that like that, you do laugh and joke. I know it's not a funny place to be, right? But you make your own levity when you can find it.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of what it is with them too, because they are soldiers at the end of the day.
Yes, they were just working for the opposite sides. Right?
Yeah,
so it makes sense. The next movie that we have is Shang Chi, which we were kind of talking about. Me, Finbarr, and Monkey. I don't really have a problem with it, besides it being too. What's the word? Like it's just paint by numbers, really.
Yeah.
Right. Like it doesn't bother me at like Black Widow or some of the other TV shows, because we don't really have an attachment to Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi in the comics, again, not everybody's favorite character. A lot of people don't know his backstory. I don't know his backstory very well. I just know, okay, the master of Kung Fu comics. He's kind of a grounded character, and they kind of took that away from him, but I can kind of understand why, right? So what's everybody's thoughts on Shang-Chi?
I thought it was okay. Oh, you go ahead. Who's
no,
Finbarr?
I thought it was okay, so I'll give it a thumbs up until the Raya and the Last Dragon type
Those two.
ending.
Oh yeah,
If that's what
yeah,
it's called.
yeah.
I
With
actually,
the
I
dragon
thought it
and all that
was,
stuff.
yeah, no, I actually, again, like you said, Paint, it's like a movie that doesn't do anything to like wow, so crazy. It's just like Paint by the numbers, just do the standard MCU thing. But I think the action scenes were really fun. I actually do think the action scenes were tremendous fun. Like,
And they
to
were
be honest,
until the ending, I feel like, but
yeah, well, she could say the dragon or whatever the thing, whatever the fuck it was, what was going on. But like, I thought
the protector or whatever.
yeah, the martial arts though, the martial actual fighting, that looks
I
really
wanted
fun.
more. Yeah, I wanted
more of that. That
I
was
wanted
really
more
fun.
Hong Kong cinema style.
Yeah.
Kung fu.
Oh my god, yes,
Yeah,
they should have done something
Because
like
he can
that.
do it. This is the thing. He can do it. That Sima Leo can do it.
yes,
Is that
he
his name?
could do it. Yes, I
it's
think they
really
should have
cool.
focused more on that. To be honest,
Yeah.
what do you think, Bob and Arkham? I know you guys are kind of getting overshadowed, so gotta.
No, it's cool. I really enjoyed Shang Chi. Aquafina was in it, and I love her. She's always great. Always a perk for me to see in film. I know some people can't stand her.
She was the dragon in that film, Bob, as well. You know that, yeah?
Yeah, she was rare. She was the dragon. Yeah,
I didn't even see that movie, so I might have to check it out.
I've got an 8-year-old.
I actually really liked it. But I thought overall it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I like the action scenes, the characters, the acting overall. I actually quite liked the dragon and at the end, and I even liked the very ending where Aquafina's like, "Did you see him go Kamehameha on the dragon?" I like that little pop culture reference. And yeah, I like seeing that side of the MCU. More Shang-Chi and less Multiverse of Madness.
No, that's
I
fair.
agree.
What do you
Bob,
think,
though.
Marco?
The dragon is cool.
I think it was a good movie. Like I don't really have a problem with it. I think it was cool. Like, yeah, like the 10 rings, but it's not technically rings. It has, but it was like it was,
Yeah,
it was
they definitely changed that.
Yeah, they changed it. Like I think story overall was good. Like like this is one of the movies that I really don't have a problem with. Like, but I think it was like a fine movie. Like I don't really have any problem with it.
Yeah, I really don't have any problems with it, and I don't really have any fixes besides what Finbarr pretty much said. More Hong Kong, kung fu, a little bit more grounded, because that's what the character is. So I'm kind of curious to see what they do in a sequel. Like, would they do Iron Fist, or would it just connect with Kang? I don't know. So we'll see. But I think the one we should talk about the movie is Eternals, because this is probably the most controversial MCU movie. Like, if we're being honest, right? This one, I don't even really know what to think other than it was not good. But I think it's a lot more complicated than just it not being good. So what do you think, Bob? You could start off with this.
Sorry, which movie? Sorry,
Eternals.
I actually really liked the Eternals. Like, call me crazy. I'm like the weird one in the room.
No, I didn't mind it either. I thought it was okay.
I thought that they should have made it a series. There should have been a lot more development of the individual Eternals. I would like to see more of them fleshing out their powers and their characters and their influence on society to show a greater tie to humanity and a care for humanity, which I think that was kind of the real thing which I didn't really connect with the movie is allegedly these Eternals have been overseeing us for all these millennia, but then they switch on their creator towards the end. I feel that was quite rushed and didn't feel very natural.
That's what I mean. Like, I think it's not good from the perspective of there's a lot of mythology that needs to be explored, which I feel like a lot of other MCU movies don't have that problem, because they're not dealing with characters that have so many connections that are just not like we're talking about. Like, the Eternals are obviously connected with Thanos. They're obviously now connected with the Celestials, and then you have to explain all of that inner workings. But then they also do something that to me makes no sense, which is they, instead of just taking what was in the comic and just adapting it for simplicity reasons. There's the deviants,
Yeah.
they're Eternals, they're just, you know, with messed up genes. They go completely different and change the deviants, which in my opinion is what makes the movie a lot more confusing, because then now the Eternals have a different origin, which they're sort of robots and they're created from the Celestials. But is it just the 11 characters, or are there other, like, there's a lot more questions where it's like, okay, well, then what is Thanos, right? Why does Thanos look like what he does, right? These are all things that I would assume the Eternals movie would explain, because, you know, that's what the comics did with the Jack Kirby comics, and also there was other, you know, Thanos had his own solo series and they kind of connected it with him, and obviously you have Star Fox. There's so many connections with Eternals, even though they're not really popular and they don't really, you know, there hasn't been a lot of runs for them, right? There's only been Jack Kirby, and then Neil Gaiman did a run, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So what's your thoughts on this, Finbar?
Well, they
Like-
took a lot. I'll agree with you with this. They took a lot of liberties on the source material. I know you're a big Kirby fan, Blinded.
Yeah.
But so it wasn't a bad film in the sense it was well shot, and it wasn't really that messy. If you take it, if you look past the fact that it's not the Eternals that you know
in the comics,
right? And also it felt like it came too late because they were trying to explain why they weren't there for Thanos. Now they were saying they don't get involved if deviants aren't a threat. In the comics, Thanos has deviant blood, right?
Yes.
So this doesn't make any sense to me. So they've had to. This is what bothers me about the MCU, is when they take things that were in the comics and they strip them away because it doesn't suit the story they're telling. And this is exactly what this film was. It was there was a lot of that
a lot of meddling, in my opinion.
And I don't even mind. I honestly don't even mind the gender bending stuff, right? If they want to,
no, I don't care about none of that.
Don't
stuff,
care about it. But the characters were different.
I like the characters, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I like the characters and stuff. I just think when we're pulled out, it's usually we're pulled out to explain all of these lores and world building, right? So then it's like, okay, now you're taken away from the part that I like, and now you're forcing down something that, to me, I don't have a problem if you change the Eternals, right? But I think what was in the comics was more simple.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah,
right.
It's no need to change.
There was no need to change it, and then now it complicates things where you're like, okay, why? Okay, is Thanos a robot too? Like, and if so, why is his death? Why does it matter? Because then he could come back, right? And it's like,
I don't think
and
he's
in
a
Star
robot,
Fox,
though.
like stuff like that. In my opinion, they should have cut it and saved it for another movie. Save that for, you know, Eternals 2 or 3, right? Where it's this big reveal.
You ain't getting any of them.
Yeah,
I think we might get them. Hold on. Sorry.
yeah.
We gotta get Eternals too.
We
man.
have.
I don't think they will. I think it was too much of a commercial failure for them to do it.
Yeah,
I think they're going to have to stick with it, because I have a theory that Galactus will be a Celestial. That's my big theory.
I don't think they're going to leave them. I think they'll be back, but I don't think they'll be getting their own Eternals movie. I think it will be in other films.
Yeah, I think they'll pick and choose who to stay, right? Like, Cersei has to stay, right? She was an Avenger. She has her whole relationship with Black Knight. Like, that's important.
Yeah.
Like, everybody
half of them
knows
are
that.
gone. Yeah, half of them are gone anyway, so it's not a big team anymore.
Yeah. But also another problem that I had was when it starts to now turn into like, oh, they're all fighting each other toward the ending.
Yeah.
With Icarus. All of that, in my opinion, it was not really set up enough for me to be like, I like this, right? Like, this makes sense for the story.
That was my issue with them. Like, I felt like, okay, well, I got two things. I think the movie was pretty boring, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, I told Blind this. I told him that I don't really like Kumail Nanjiani. Like, I never liked his comedy.
He didn't
But,
do
like,
anything
watch
yet, did he?
the movie. Yeah,
he has
a
big beef with him. Yes.
Yeah, I just don't like that guy. I think his comedy, I'm like, he's kind of. But like when I saw the movie, I was like, he's the best part of the movie. But I don't even like the guy. So it's like but that's another thing. But Icarus, because I never understood Icarus, because it's like he becomes a villain like out of nowhere, and I felt like I thought he cared about his family, which are the Eternals. Because I told Blind this, but I guess I'll say for the podcast, I always thought it would. like in my head, I thought it would have made more sense that Icarus was someone who was like he was the more caring one out of the Eternals.
Well,
I think
he's
I
the
told him
leader
this.
in the comics.
Right, yeah, but I thought in the movie he should have been the one that was the most interactive with humans, and he ends up like falling in love with a human, but that person eventually passes away, but he is eternal, right? So there's a sense of not nihilism, but like sense of like he's kind of negative about it about humans.
Well, yeah, he I think that would have. Yeah, I could.
Yeah, like he slowly becomes more and more like he doesn't care about them, and he eventually has this thing where he leaves.
That's his motivation.
Motivation, and then he comes back, and you're like, oh, you know, Icarus, you've been gone for so long, and now you're back, and you see, like he explains to then he lies to them. He doesn't explain what happened, but you get a sense that he's seen something and he knows something, and so remember the mystery is that he kills Angelina Jolie's character, like he ends up killing her. I thought it would have made more sense was that she tells him, hey, I have a plan, you know, to prevent the thing that's going to happen to these people from happening. And I thought it would have been better if he was like, well, if this happens, we're going to die. That means my family dies, the Eternals die, and I care about them. They're my family, right? So I thought it would have made more sense that he ends up killing her to prevent that thing from so that thing could happen.
Which,
so
by the way,
live.
It wasn't Angelina Jolie. It was what's her name? Yeah, Salma Hayek's character.
She was Asian.
Salma Hayek. Sorry, Salma Hayek's character. Sorry. Like I thought he kills her in order to save the Eternals. That's what thought he was doing. So it was like that's why he kills her, because he knows that if he allows her plan to go in motion, that they might die. Humans might live, but they might die, or it might be a battle they can't win. And that's what leads him into becoming, hey, I need to do this to save all of you. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's why it's more like it's sad. And it's like more like what do you call it? You feel more for the character because you're like he is.
You can at least understand his motivation.
Like he's not a villain, but he's more like he's a villain in the sense that he is trying to like let this whatever, this terrible thing, this end of the world thing to happen, but he's only doing it to save his own people.
Well, and also too that it's just to like add on to it, like flesh it out a little bit more. In Eternals, right? It is explained that the world they don't want the world to end, but it's just that's the way that nature is.
That's the way it has.
That's
to
how
happen.
the Celestial will be born, right?
So
it would make some sense again if he's like, hey, I've already seen they're kind of shown that in the movie, right? But I don't think it's to the extent where we get to see it from Icarus's perspective, where then you start to understand, okay, why he's going down this path. To me, it just feels like again, it felt more subversive. Like, oh, we'll take this character who we all know is like a Superman type character, and it's going to be revealed, oh, he's the villain, right? He's the one that they're all fighting against, and it's like, like at that point, it wasn't fresh, right? Because I mean, one, it's not fresh because we've seen that in comic books long before we had stuff like The Boys or Invincible, right? So it's like, I just think, and again, Icarus is a main character. Like he's on all the covers of the Eternal comics. He still is a main character, right? in the current Eternals run. So it just doesn't really. I don't really like that change, and it was a change that was done.
It was done for a swerve.
Yes, it was done to throw off the audience. That's what it was done.
And I wanted to add on to the way I would have concluded it, but like whatever. But when the not Sentinel, what do they call it, Celestials or something?
Celestials, yes.
Yeah, when that Celestial is coming, it's supposed to feel like this crazy thing is going to happen, this end of the world thing. But it just felt like when it came, it just took the people away, and that was it. Like it took the Eternals away, and it was gone. But I felt like in the ending that should have been a setup for something more grand, was that some of the Eternals agree with him, and obviously some wouldn't, and they'd be like, "Hey, no, we can't do what you want." And from there, you set up like it's more not really a cliffhanger, but it's going to set up something else, which is going to be Eternals versus Avengers, where the Avengers are obviously fighting for humanity,
which is what they're doing in the comics.
Which is what and that's what they should have done, because it would have made more sense that some of the Eternals are gonna obviously agree with Icarus. Like, fuck, we're gonna die. We don't want to do this. We want to live and we want to help our own. And then he sees it that way, and so some are on his side. So you see Eternals versus Avengers, and then you see that the Celestials are coming, and it'll be this bigger grand thing in the middle of the Kang.
Well,
thing,
in the comics, the X-Men were also involved. There was Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals. Because
do that. If you want to make a big event in the middle of your phase,
which I think is what they're going to do, though. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're
I
going
hope
to
they
do.
do that because
phase 10, maybe.
Phase 10. Okay, we're in phase 10. But I thought it would have been cool that they set up like how, because remember, this is a huge conflict, right? This is a world-ending conflict, and it didn't feel like that at the end of the movie, right? I felt like at the end of the movie, it should have been like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? Because like, what's going to happen to Doctor Strange? What's going to happen to all these movies? Because this huge event's going to happen. Eternals versus Avengers versus this versus that, and it's going to be a major event that's going to shape the Marvel universe. But
it's not. That's another thing too with the problem with Eternals is that it doesn't really belong in this phase because this phase is about the multiverse. So it's like and this is why I have that bet with Finbarr is because I just don't understand why they would introduce so many big event concepts in one phase when phase the Infinity Saga didn't do that, right? It only toward the ending we started getting the idea of the multiverse, right? So it's like now you're laying on things way too thick, right? Like this is almost like in the comics they sometimes they do this in the comics and it's dumb too, right? Where it's like you have one event, right? It will be like, I don't know, Civil War, and then in that event they're already hinting at another event that's going to come after it. It just doesn't make sense. It's like, just tell the story, right? This is already an event that has a bunch of crossovers and all that stuff with other characters. Focus on that, end the story, and then do the next one, right? Like, don't hint toward it or set it up within the same event, right? Like I don't know. I think that's where that's the problem with Marvel right now is that they have so many stories, right? We're talking, 5 decades worth of storytelling that they're now trying to be like, we're going to do this in like one phase, which is now like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like that's too much, right? Focus on one thing, have characters. Don't be like, oh, we're going to introduce everybody because everybody's asking all these characters. Oh, I want to see Doctor Doom. Oh, I want to see the Fantastic Four. I want to see all these characters. It's like, I understand you want to see them. They're popular characters. They make sense. But, like, slow down, right? Like, we're only now getting introduced to She-Hulk and Moon Knight and all these other characters. And then you want the popular characters, too. It's like, so...
Yeah.
So, clothing thoughts, Bob, Arkham, what do you guys...
Pretty much agree, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I agree with... And I also think Eternals is out of place also. Like, why do this now? Like,
yeah, why do this now? It should have also, I think a better fit for Eternals would have been in the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they should have been
just set up
Thanos. And have another powerful player on the field against Thanos would have been good.
No, I would have done that before Endgame and had them scattered to the wind so that they're not involved in the fight with Thanos.
Oh yeah, that's
and there's a reason for it.
That would have been a good idea. I just don't think
that the way they have like Tiamat sticking out of the earth and nobody ever mentions it.
No one's ever.
Maybe they will come to it again when they're mining adamantium out of it. But
the rumor is that they're supposed to mention it in Thunderbolts.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But they haven't said anything about it anywhere else.
Nowhere
and
else.
That's kind of weird because that is quite a big. I don't know. Like
that's a big.
It's a big thing
event.
Sticking out the earth, and I'd want to know what that is.
Yeah.
I'd be talking. But then you're living in a world. You're living in a world that's had half the population snapped, and all sorts of shit goes on a weekly basis. So I suppose it's nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I guess.
There's event happening every other day.
The next two, we'll end it off with these two because then it would conclude 2021, and then the next episode we'll do 2022 Phase 4. So the next show that we have was Hawkeye, which, I think again this is we're just gonna have to keep bringing this up where it's a show where it's okay until you get to the ending, and potentially I think I have a problem with Hawkeye being the main character because, and I'm talking about Clint Barton Hawkeye because he's not. They don't do anything with his character. Like, I don't know if you guys agree with that, but like he's there in the show to guide Kate Bishop, and then it's sort of like, oh, we don't actually learn his origin. We don't learn about him at all, which none of the movies have really gone in depth. The one thing that they could have put was his origin with his brother. There's no mention of that. They cut that out of the show, right? So this, and then my main issue with it is they rushed this whole storyline with Echo and Kingpin. Why was that even necessary for a Hawkeye show?
To get the hype for that show, for the Echo show.
But then now you don't have a show for the Echo show because
You do,
Echo.
well, they're still doing it, so there is. But that, yeah, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, I wouldn't have an Echo show, to be quite honest.
No,
But
it makes no sense.
I don't agree that he's the main character. I think it is Kate Bishop.
Like, it's Kate
feel
Bishop,
like
but
she gets
he
more time.
has she definitely get yes, she does definitely get more time. But I mean, in the sense where
She gets more of an arc.
it's
right.
like it's called Hawkeye
but they're both
because
Hawkeye.
they're both
It's not-
Hawkeye, right? But
Yeah.
people going into that don't really know, right? Like, if you don't know anything about that comic, that the Matt Fraction comic, you don't know Kate Bishop, you think it's a show about Jeremy Renner, right? And the show did have elements. Like, I'm talking about, they have a scene that was in there that was cut. They cut that out of the show, and it was like, hey, that kind of gives a little bit more depth to his character, right? Like, I guess it doesn't really matter because they're not going to do anything with Hawkeye. This was the opportunity to take that Matt Fraction comic, and I love that comic. That's one of my favorite
But
comics.
that's maybe why they cut it. I think maybe they cut it to take the focus away from him and onto her, because she's going to be the one that carries on in that role. And I'm not bothered about that. The Matt Fraction comic is excellent, and it didn't have to be a direct adaptation.
It didn't
Nothing
need to
really
be.
has been.
And nothing has been, but it's undeniable. I feel like out of all of the MCU movies and shows, that one took very heavy
It's the
inspiration.
closest. Yeah, this has been the closest, I think.
It has, like, there's little details where you're like, that's never
dogs,
I've never
everything.
seen that.
Yeah,
The dog,
the dog.
the car that they're in is a reference to an issue. Like the marketing with the white background. That's all
the gang.
The gang,
the
the whole
sweatpants
gang,
gang or
the
the-
Russian gang, where they're like, bro, that's all from, again, the comics, or you're just like, and it's not like, oh, this is building up to something. This is that's just part of the storytelling and style, right? Where it's like, oh, the bro gang, right? And they just say bro all the time,
Bro,
right? Yeah. So it's like,
get the gun, bro. Okay.
I don't know. What do you think, Bob, on about Hawkeye?
I thought it was really the Kate Bishop show, and
Yeah, it is really.
it was a bit
Bishop show.
frustrating. I wasn't very keen on it. It was a very Christmas themed show,
Yes.
bit gimmicky. I mean, they brought in the Kingpin as the bad guy at the end, but I don't know how much I appreciate that, or really.
In hindsight, I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah. So
Not how they handled it. No, not how they handled it. I wish it
Yes.
was more in the background. But I'm glad
Yeah.
glad he's there, but I wish they hadn't shot him in the face at the end.
so
I don't think that needed to happen right away.
Yeah, I the whole Echo and this is what I mean, right? Like, this is how you know. Not to cut off Bob. Sorry about that, but like, this is how you know, the MCU doesn't actually set up things right. Because if you were going to do an Echo show, why would you take that moment that's at the ending of the show and show that to us instead of like, oh, they're going to have a confrontation in their show, right? Like, that's going to spin off from this.
They're
Because
gonna
now
open
you
up-
don't have a story.
Sorry, Blindy. They're going to open up Echo with that scene, but they're going to show you what happens.
But what's the, like, Echo is not, I keep saying this, Echo is not a character who there's nothing on this character.
Oh no, I agree. I agree with you. I don't want to watch that show, but
Well,
if
like,
they're going to have
what's the
Daredevil and
point?
Kingpin in it, I'm watching it.
Like, I
Nobody
get
wants it.
everybody's going to watch it because it's Daredevil and Kingpin, but it's like, why, like, the story that I heard of how the show was greenlit boggles my mind, right? I'm not sure if you know the story, but essentially Kevin Feige met the actor on set of this on Hawkeye, right? And he was like, oh, you know what? You should get your own show. just randomly go, oh, you should get your own show. And then since then they've never even met. They only met at last year's D23. What in the world? Like, so you're just handing out shows to everybody, right? You like the actor, and they're like, oh, just take a show. You could be the main star.
Take a paycheck.
And it's like the character has never had a solo comic.
That's what I feel they've done with Agatha as well. I think the actresses charmed them on set, and they've went, "You should get your own show." I honestly think that's what's happened.
But the thing is,
I forgot there was an Agatha show.
Agatha, there is a lot story you could tell, right? With her, she's a babysitter. You obviously have the stuff with the reincarnations of Scarlet Witch, they're her two sons. So I'm not as bothered by that, but I'm as someone who actually knows Echo, I'm like, bro, like this makes no sense, right? Like she is a supporting character to like this is like them being like there's I can't even think of a character. It would be just like, oh, let's give Foggy Nelson a TV show.
No. Goodbye.
I like Foggy Nelson, but like I don't want to see an entire TV show with Foggy Nelson. I know that's not on the same level, but that's how I feel like, right? Just because
still end
like
up watching it.
Yeah, like we'll still watch it, but like I'm still like, why did you do it? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you don't need every character to have a show.
And you know what's crazy too, right? They recently gave her own solo series, right? And it's like her with the Phoenix Force. So you can't even do that. You can't do that. That's an entirely different story that involves years of setup now. So it's like I'm super curious. And the fact that I keep hearing things about and this is another thing, I'm not sure if you guys heard. The showrunner said she regrets what she did with the show, and then they delete the article. What? The show is not even out yet. I've never seen this. I've never seen someone admit.
So on a show, she doesn't like the show she made.
No, she didn't say that she didn't like the show. She said that she regrets things that weren't like she wrote the show, and looking back, she regrets not doing some things because she feels like it didn't add up or amount to what they wanted, right? And then the article just goes down. So it's like, well, okay.
Kevin Foggy.
And now we're hearing, oh, they delayed the show because they're trying to retool it. They're trying to fix it. And why is that? Is it because there's no story? Is there no content? 6 episodes of what? I'm curious. Out of all the shows coming out this year, I am super curious.
Do you think they're retooling it? Do you think they're retooling it in any one of those specials, special presentations, or do you think they'll keep it at 6?
I think they'll have to keep it at 6 because they spent the money. They shot it like a television show.
I wish they would just fold it into Daredevil, take it and fold it into that 18-episode Daredevil show.
I think they should definitely do something like that, but add on like Daredevil spin-off and then Echo or Daredevil Tales.
You're right, because they've done this in the comics: Daredevil and Echo, Daredevil and Black Widow.
Yes.
They've done that before, so they should.
Or just fold Echo into the Daredevil show.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that'd be better.
But which would make it longer, right? Because it's 18 episodes. Now it would be what? Someone do the math because I'm stupid.
32. I'm joking. I don't know, man.
36.
What did you say?
36?
26.
24 or 36. 36 would be double, but if you're just adding in a bit of a side,
no, we're just adding
more.
I mean, if they cut 6 episodes, and they have like 3, I don't know how they would do this. I really don't know how they would do this.
Do the Mandalorian route? The Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett.
Oh my god, the Book of I hate the Book of Boba Fett.
It might be the Book of Boba Fett of the MCU at this point.
It could be. You know what? Because Echo sounds like the most boringest show in the MCU. I'll be honest. I couldn't care about Echo.
It's not. Yeah, it's. And I don't want to trivialize the woman's disability, but somebody who doesn't speak, you sit for 6 episodes of that. I know there's going to be supporting characters.
Well, and then they also talked about they want to explore like Aboriginals and natives, which, in my opinion, Echo, yes, that's her background and stuff, but Echo's not the character to do that. Like, if I'm being honest, there's other native characters in Marvel Comics that have a lot more. They could probably be more connected with Doctor Strange. Like, I'm totally blanking on the character's name, but he's on Alpha Flight and he has his daughter Shaman. Totally blanking on the character's name, but you can make yeah, he's like a mystical character, right? He has his own daughter, right? I think his daughter was even a villain at one point to Doctor Strange. So like I think I can understand for
Are you talking about
representation.
North Star? North Star, right?
Not North Star. Those are the twins. There's the shaman. He's like an old Aboriginal dude. Not too old, but the twins.
Shaman, yeah, that's his name,
shaman.
right?
Okay,
That's
yeah.
his name.
Yes, that's the character I'm talking about. He I feel like you could probably do something with him, right? There's a little bit more of an interesting premise. While Echo, again, she doesn't have powers. She's connected with a character that is, again, a grounded character. So you have a lot of these grounded characters, and you're like, what genre do they fit in? And that's what I would do with Hawkeye. Just cut out, Echo at the ending, leave that, and have the show now just focus on her trying to get back at Kingpin, and then Daredevil shows up. That would have been fine.
Yeah.
But now you don't have that. So
yeah,
now
like
what
an
do you do?
Echo Daredevil team up. Like it could be he's more involved in the show.
Yes.
Because I don't think she's interesting enough to have her own, just her by herself.
Yeah,
But
and
she
they
needs
also got
someone
rid
else
of the
to
clown too.
compliment.
I don't remember his full name, but he was also in Hawkeye, right? And they from what I understand, he's gone, right? Yeah. So,
Well, to be fair with Hawkeye, I know you don't like the show, but I'll be honest, I like the show because like his thing.
I only dislike the ending, like I said.
Oh, okay. Well, because here's the thing,
And,
I like Kate Bishop. I thought she was a pretty good character in the show, and I know you said something about how Hawkeye they don't really show much about his past or anything, and they could have done that, and they didn't do that. I guess it's a missed opportunity, but I did like enough of Hawkeye that I want more of Hawkeye. Like I didn't feel like I just want more Kate Bishop now. I really actually want more Hawkeye. Like I want Clint Barton more. Yes. I want to know more about him now because I did enjoy him on his like semi-solo, Marvel show. Because you got to see like how he conflicts his work with his family and how he's dealing with guilt over, Natasha's death and, and having to confront her sister. And, he's like, I didn't kill her, but he kind of almost feels like he did, and him like trying to accept it and almost like it should have been her, it should have been me, not her. And it's like, yeah, and I really did like his own personal life and how he has to connect and him teaching her how to be a better Hawkeye. And it's like, I like this character. I want more Clint Barton. Like actually, like, yeah, that's the thing about Hawkeye.
It could have been split into like 2 seasons. Like you could have.
It could have been 2 seasons. It could have been but
because I don't mind if they make Kate Bishop like a leader of the Young Avengers. Like I do like her character in the show. Like I don't really have a problem with it. I just think that it took away of like this should have also been a Clint Barton show and deal with his guilt with like that should have just been the main focus. And again with these MCU shows they jam in so many plot threads.
They jam in too much.
Yeah, things that could have just been in one season. Like there's 6 episodes.
6 episodes is just way too short for a Clint Barton show and a Kate Bishop show. And that's why Kate Bishop has more of an arc, whereas Clint's like still going through that. Like he still has to find his arc, find his journey or whatever. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I do feel like the amount that we got in the show with him is good enough for me to go, this character has a lot more potential. And we have the comics.
I agree. I think Bob wanted to say something, and then we're going to move on to the last topic, and then
I was just going to say I need to make a quick phone call. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's okay. So I guess the last movie for 2021. This is going to be the last thing. I don't know what you guys feel about this. I mean, a lot of people love this movie. It's No Way Home, right? I'm not too. I don't remember your stance on it, Finbarr. So you should go first and kind of like talk about what you think about this movie.
When I watched it for the first time, not knowing what was going to happen, I loved it. It's not a film I can rewatch.
Interesting.
Because the surprise is gone, and there's really nothing there. Once you take out the 2 Spider-Men, and once you take out all the villains that have come through, what really happens in the end of this film is it resets Spider-Man back to where he should have been in the beginning, on his own, living in an apartment with a suit with no tech. And I think that's all this film really, really did. It didn't do anything else.
Yes. Besides get rid of Aunt May, which
besides get rid, but she was a pointless character anyway. I really don't
she's a pointless character, but this is the thing about.
And she wasn't Aunt May.
I have so many conflicting thoughts on this movie because I think I have a problem with Spider-Man in the MCU in terms of like he's not the traditional Spider-Man. He's pretty much given his status, who he is. Spidey. But the thing is, those movies, the two movies before No Way Home, I don't have really a problem with. I think they're entertaining, right? Besides, obviously, that one issue, right? But this movie to me is where all the problems with the character now comes out and starts to ruin the movie. Because first off, one, you have he consistently does not learn. Okay, and we're not talking about he has different problems and stuff. I'm talking about the same exact problem where he does not slow down, he does not consider what people are doing, and he does not think. The same thing happened in Far From Home.
He's the dumbest genius I've ever seen.
Yes, it does not. and the thing is, right, in the original Stan Lee comics, when he was younger, he was more, oh, I'm smarter than everybody, and that's why I'm going to make these decisions. That makes sense, right? Because he's a kid who thinks he's smarter than he is. Here, he's just a bumbling kind of like, oh, well, I'm trying to do the right thing, but he doesn't actually think it through, right? Where it's like, hey, why would you give Mysterio those glasses, knowing that it was a gift, right? Why would you interrupt Doctor Strange? Why? And first off, why wouldn't Doctor Strange tell him the conditions of the rules of his spell? All these things that to me, it feels like we need to do this really quickly. Ignore so we can get the plot going.
And get Andrew and Toby in there.
Go fast so you can't think about anything.
Instead of being... And you know what was the thing that bothered me the most was when Kevin Feige himself came out and said, No Way Home, that whole spell ruining was a result of what happens in Loki. That's a big plot development thing that is not talked about at all, right? Because you're now trying to say that the spell was supposed to work, but because of Loki and what happens at the ending, now everything has changed. Okay, that has we didn't know this information. Like Loki didn't tell us, no other movie didn't tell us, and now you're saying that on the red carpet for a small fraction of the audience to know about. Like, what show is going to now introduce that idea? Like, that's a whole tangent thing. I don't want to get into because again, the movie doesn't bring that up. But a lot of the problems with this movie is just the fact that it wants to do the nostalgia thing, and it has to get there, and it doesn't know how to get there, so it just rushes through it.
And it's weird because it does stuff that Spider-Man should have already been going through before, and they do it in this movie as if he's never been through that. Like Uncle Ben is the biggest reason why he's Spider-Man. Yes, he lost Uncle Ben, and he felt guilty, and that's why he became Spider-Man. And it's like, so why the hell did he in this movie, Aunt May dies, he blames himself, he cries, and he's like, I don't know what to do, and they have to tell him, you have to be Spider-Man.
You can
he's
see
already
it.
been through.
Sorry, you can see it in Civil War when Tony Stark comes to his apartment to recruit him, and he's sitting on the bed and he goes and he says something to him about like, you're just looking for the little guy, and he kind of looks down, and this is some of the brilliant piece of acting I've seen of Tom Holland. He just does this kind of look down and he goes, yeah, that's it. I'm looking out for the little guy. That was the Uncle Ben dying. Part. That had already happened. Why did it have to happen again with Aunt May?
Well, why does she say that line? That's the thing.
I know that pisses me off. It's like the Uncle Ben already should have told him that. That's why he became Spider-Man, because he understands he has a responsibility to be Spider-Man. And I remember the one thing I loved about the comic books was that I keep always mentioning this because I always love this, that his first issue, they show that he was going to rob an armored truck to make money because he was financially they're poor because Uncle Ben's dead. He needs money. He's about to rob an armored truck, but he doesn't do it. He does the good thing. He helps somebody. He's like, I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, why didn't they ever have that in the MCU Spider-Man movies? Like, that would have been a great scene to show that he is a person that, you know, can end up doing bad, but he never does because he knows that even doing the good thing, it may not help him in the end, but he does help somebody else. And that's what makes him selfless. And that's what makes you love Spider-Man and care for Spider-Man as a character. But they never do that. Instead, they go, let's have him make the same mistakes every fucking time. And every time he learns, but he doesn't learn because in the next movie, he makes the same mistake over again. It's like, he's like stuck in limbo. He's stuck in limbo. He's never going to move out of it.
And it's not like a personality. I can't really explain, like, the reason why he messes up is usually it feels like it's contrived. It's like for the plot.
Yeah.
But
for the plot, because he learns in the comics. He learns. He needs to. That's how Peter Parker works. He makes mistakes.
What do you think about this, Arkham?
Yeah, it's a problem. That they make Spider-Man not learn from his mistakes, and I agree, it's the plot thing. Even though I like the movie, I do see the problem. I see the problem where they make it where he doesn't learn from his past mistakes, like from his past movies. Like he keeps making mistakes after mistakes, and
they're not mistakes that you can kind of like explain away. They're mistakes that are he has gone through the same thing, similar situation, and there's no acknowledgement of like, hey, I need to. It would make sense if he was like he learned, but he learned the wrong lesson, right? And then you see that, right? But then even then, that might become repetitive. So I feel like it should have just been the spells worked, right? This is what the change I would have done, right? The beginning plot. He does the spell, it works, everything is fine, but all of a sudden things are coming out of order. And so now Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are confused. Did the spell work? Did it not work? So then the reason why I would do this is because then that would be a plot thread that goes into Multiverse of Madness. It's a little thing where they're like, oh, what actually happened? They don't know, right? It's a mystery, right? So now a lot of people especially the audience, would be a little bit intrigued because they want to know, well, why did it not work, right? And I know we were kind of talking about plot threads. There's too many plot threads, but I feel like having something that is, again, this is a movie that we know is going to connect with another movie. Why not have a mystery? So then you go, oh, this is what they were setting up in the last movie, right? Things like that, just small little. We're not talking about introducing a massive character and then you got to explain all their origin. No, I'm just saying a little detail in the plot that now has a snowball effect for Doctor Strange, because now Doctor Strange comes to the realization in that movie, oh my God, the multiverse is actually breaking within itself. And I don't know, maybe every time we do a spell that is supposed to, connected with the multiverse, right? I just make up some bull crap here, right?
Oh, because of the multiverse, it works differently.
It now works differently because there's something going on. And now that plot thread is like, hey, we're going to now investigate. And so then it keeps things going. At the end of the movie, you go, well, what was that about, right? And the MCU does like to do that, but then they never follow up on it. But now you have two movies side by side that are dealing with the same thing, and they're not connected. It's it doesn't make sense to me. It's like
it's breaking blinded.
It's breaking.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, it's like this is what we complain about. They don't do it, and it's like there's never a middle ground when it comes to like these things. So that's the one thing I would definitely fix instead of making it contrive and be like, oh, he messes up and it was because of Peter Parker. Get rid of that. Just get rid of it.
It like I said, it's so embarrassing because remember his Uncle Ben dies because of his lack of action.
Yep. And
then it happens again with Aunt May. Yeah, he ends up getting both his aunt and uncle killed. And I'm like, bro, if I was Spider-Man, I'd be like, I'm pathetic because I got both of them killed. It's like, well, what am I doing? What am I doing? But that's the thing. I wouldn't have done like a multiverse movie with Spider-Man because I'm like, he's not there yet. Like, you want to be it makes
sense marketing wise, right?
Sure, but like I
makes
want to do a
sense,
more
yeah.
grounded Spider-Man where he goes through a really horrible like fucking story because like in Far From Home or was it not Far From Home? It was Far From Home, right?
Yeah, Far From Home was the middle one.
The middle one where his identity is revealed, so people know he's Peter Parker. That should have a real consequence. Where, like I said, I told Brian this where Craven comes in. Now Craven is remember he wants to hunt the
Yeah.
spider. Right, he wants to kill the spider. He wants to prove, not kill him, but more prove to him that he's the, what he is. He's Craven the Hunter, and so it's, and I felt like,
and that's actually
the way,
not to cut you off, but yes, whole plot line is again swept under the rug in this first movie to get to Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and all these other villains.
And they stole the show. Like I didn't watch the movie for Tom Holland. I watched it for Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. That's embarrassing. I didn't watch it for Tom Holland, and that's really sad. And like I said, the Craven should have been the villain because it would make sense that he would be like, "Hey, I want to kill the spider. I know who he is, and how do I get him to come after me?" You go,
or they
after
can have
people that he knows, remember,
or they can have. This is another change that could have made the movie a little bit more compelling. You keep the whole reveal of his identity, right? But instead, they do the spell, and then the multiverse stuff happens, but people still know that he's Spider-Man, right? So then when the new Spider-Man come in, they're also at a threat too because their identity is revealed to the villains. So now it's like, they all have this personal thing where they're like, how are we gonna fix this thing? Because now our villains know who we are, and they could potentially harm us, or they could go after people that we know. So in the movie, the villains are actually being like, hey, because we have this vendetta, they're gonna go after people that they think are connected with their Peter, but they really aren't. It's it's like MJ and Ned, right? So it's almost like kind of like a mistake, right? So now they all have to be like, well, we have to team up and help these MJ and Ned or whoever, right? In that universe. So then it's like, okay, because they always have this thing in Spider-Man comics where it's like, why is his identity a secret? Well, it's because he doesn't want people, these villains to go after the people that he loves.
Because he knows what can happen to the people he loves.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then I guess that's another way of doing that. But I guess that may also make sense. But the only thing is, I'm like, wouldn't the villains already know Peter Parker? Like they already know that he's Peter Parker, so they don't have
some of them. I
think 4 out of 5 no. 4 out of 5 no, because 2 of them I don't think no. I don't think Electro found out, and I don't think
Electro found out. Dr. Octopus,
and Lizard
Goblin,
Lizard
doesn't know.
Lizard
I'm pretty
Electro are the only ones that don't know because the others
Sandman
know.
does know. Yes,
he knows because he saw Peter without the mask.
But still, I feel like you could still do something where they're going after Peter.
But
Parker.
Sandman wouldn't make sense because Sandman, remember, he says,
also
"I'm sorry for killing Uncle Ben." Right. So
and also too, another change that you can make that's in the same movie is change it where instead of the positions of where they are in terms of a villain in their own respective movie. So it's like, you're getting Dr. Octopus right when he turns into Dr. Octopus, right? You're getting Green Goblin right when he turns into Green Goblin, right?
Or right before he dies.
Not right before he dies. Not right before he dies.
Because
right when they become a villain.
No, but I think that one makes more sense because remember the way he works in the movie, where the Goblin persona is something it's taking over him. Like he's because in the end of Spider-Man 2002,
I'm only saying to introduce them as a when they are starting to be a villain because at that point they don't know that Peter Parker is.
Okay, so they find out. Okay,
and so they have more vendetta. So basically, you're getting the same character. You're almost getting like
so one Spider-Man
not to say the same story, but it's like like. They have to go relive that event of like fighting that villain at when they were like, "Oh my god, I want to kill you, Spider-Man!" Right?
I hate you, Spider-Man.
Yeah. But what do you think about this, Finbarr? Because it's been just back and forth between the two of us, or Bob, if Bob wants to go.
I'm not too bothered about where the villain came in. I think it made more sense that they came in before they died because they have to have had that time as being a villain. So that never bothered me as much.
Like I wasn't that. My point was just like as like because we're trying to fix it, right? So like that's my fix. But
This thing needs a
Yeah, that's
complete
fine.
rewrite to fix it. This is a mess, right?
Yes.
The idea, but I'm quite hopeful. So I'll just like button it what I will say for the future of it, because I'm quite hopeful that they will course correct now that they've done what they've done. They need to get so putting Peter in his own apartment in the middle of New York is getting him close to where he was in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, which is where he needs to be,
yes,
because that's
Or just-
Spider-Man.
yeah.
I'm
In the
fine with
comics.
the ending of that movie. I'm fine.
But
with
the
it.
movie itself was
Yes.
so all
Yeah.
over the place that, and it was really just honestly just designed for cameos in it. That was it.
Yeah.
That's why
Well, we know
movie was
why the
made.
movie exists. Like it's
Yeah.
not hard to
And I can accept it, because like I said, when I watched it in the cinema with people who didn't know what was coming,
yeah.
and it was good. But I can't rewatch it now because there's nothing there. There's no substance to it. It's just cameos and
It's just yeah.
and even
Yeah.
even Aunt May getting killed is not. There was no shock value to it to me.
Yeah,
I
you
felt like
definitely
it-
saw
You
that
saw it
coming.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Finbarr because it felt like an event, and that's the fun part of it in the theater. Like everyone's like hyping up. Oh my god, Andrew's on
Yeah.
stage. Oh my god, Toby's there, and it's like it feels like a fun like event, like a cool event. But then
Yeah.
when you watch the movie
But
by
when it's
yourself,
over,
But
it's
like
what do you
it's not that
wanted to say, Bob?
No Way Home was utter trash. Like pure gimmick, pure nostalgia grab, no substance. Tom Holland, I love Tom Holland. I love his portrayal, I guess, as Spider-Man, but that's going to contradict what I'm about to say further.
Mhm.
But this entire trilogy of Spider-Man movies, he's been kneecapped by other more predominant MCU characters being in the forefront. The first movie you had Iron Man, the second movie you had Nick Fury, and in this third movie you've got Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire upstaging poor
Tom Holland, yes.
Tom Holland. And for me, all three movies could be completely scrapped and redone because this isn't the Spider-Man I know. It's a completely like he's either too young and too naive or not advanced enough. But I don't know, like in the comic books, from what I remember, and in the TV shows, Peter Parker was a smart lad. He could do shit on his own. But in these movies, it seems like he's always relying on someone else to sort out his problems or do stuff. So he seems like a very sidelined, underutilized character in his own movies.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I agree with Bob because
agree
in
with
Civil
that.
War they had that there he mentioned he's a dumpster diver. He's able to create technology just by picking trash from the garbage and then just fixing it and making it into something else.
Yeah.
And that's like they mentioned in Civil War. He's a grounded on the streets hero that he's doesn't have money, so he finds different ways to make stuff.
Yeah, they
'cause
make
he's really
him
smart.
they make him intelligent, but he's got no common
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
like
thing.
he's
Civil
only
War.
intelligent when the script needs him to be
It
smart.
needs to be
And
because
that's a frustration that I have with a lot of movies where it's
Yeah.
like it's you have to write the character like they are. You can't just pick and choose their personalities when it's convenient for the plots. It doesn't work, right? It's not satisfying, and to be honest, it makes the character look stupid because it's like you're only smart when I'm only realizing this now, but why didn't you realize this 5, 15, a whole hour ago? Right.
You forget he's supposed to be a genius, but you forget that because he's given everything. Everything is given to him by Tony and everyone else who just give him stuff, and so it's like he's a kid, and for him, Halloween has been going on forever. He gets trick or treating every day, because he gets all the treats. He doesn't feel like he earns anything, right? And that's that's the thing. Peter Parker just doesn't work. That's what I don't like. Like that's my issue. Like I think with Bob and Blinded, they say the same thing where it doesn't feel like Peter Parker. As Peter Parker, he struggles every day. He struggles, and that's the thing with Peter Parker. That's why we love Peter Parker. That's why we relate to that character.
Even
he earns it.
Even Sam Raimi's. So even Toby didn't feel like. I mean, even though those films were tonally the closest that they got into Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and John Romita Senior's early comics.
Yeah.
But the Peter Parker didn't seem smart. He's a bumbling idiot in that as well. Really.
Yes. I don't know
He
if
didn't have to
that's
make
because
he didn't even have to make any web shooters because they were organic.
yeah,
but
they were organic, right?
Well, Spider-Man
I feel
3,
like, well, hold
two,
on, just to make this point, I feel like the only potential reason why I think they wouldn't make him like the comic is because sometimes reading the Stan Lee comic, I did find Peter Parker to be kind of unlikable because he is smart. I understand. And, you know, a 15-year-old that's smart would make those decisions. They think that they're smarter than everybody, right? Because, they're good at a particular subject, right? And I don't know how that would – I would definitely want to see that translated because then, again, like I said, it would make sense why he's making these mistakes, right? But then I would want to see how people would react to it because that particular Peter Parker is not what people know, right? If you've never read Stan Lee's comic, right? And let's say you read the Ultimate with the Ultimate Spider-Man with Bendis. He's a totally different character in that comic compared to Stan Lee. So I'm sure there's a lot of people my age, people even maybe just a little bit older, that don't know that personality of Peter Parker, right? So, yeah, what were you going to say, Bob?
No, I was just going to say, I was just realizing that Ultimate Spider-Man is probably a basis for the MCU Spider-Man, as most of the MCU has been in it. The Ultimates,
definitely. Even Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which I in hindsight, I wouldn't mind if Andrew Garfield was the Spider-Man in the MCU.
I actually like like those Spider-Man movies. I never disliked the second one.
I wasn't really a fan of the movies per se, but I liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. He was the most.
That's what I agree with.
Spider-Man.
He was a good Spider-Man.
He wasn't like a good early Spider-Man, but he was a good contemporary Spider-Man, where he's just like he's got the quips, the jokes. I don't really feel
physique-wise as well,
and physique-wise, and he's
a
good actor.
Yeah,
he's the best actor out of the three. To be honest, he's the best actor.
And the Amazing Spider-Man 2, he looked as close to what's his name, the guy who did Spawn, Tom McFarlane's Spider-Man.
He looked like Tom McFarlane. He even kind of looked. I totally forget the artist that was doing Dan Slott's run, but he looked like that Peter Parker too, right? Mm-hmm. So just like drawing wise, like the hair, his wild hair and stuff. So. I guess it's all hindsight, but
I also like the balance Andrew struck with the kind of nerdy goofiness and like a kind of overconfident geek kind of thing where he thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's really just goofing up.
And that's who he is. That's who Spider-Man is, right? I don't know what's going to happen with the next trilogy, but what were we going to say, Bob? Sorry.
I kind of forgot. I was just going to say, I was just going to agree with you totally. That is Spider-Man, isn't it? Like he's always more confident. He always seems more sure as when he's in the suit, when he's as Spider-Man. But as soon as he's out the suit, he's just like a complete kind of nerd goofball.
Yeah.
But that's the thing in the comics and everything else. They always mention that why he makes jokes is because he's scared. It's to make the tension not as intensive for him because he's scared. Every time he swings his webs, he goes out there. He's scared. He's still that scared guy, but he needs to be more confident. But he does that for himself, and that's why I like the character because the idea of anxiety and people struggle is relatable. That's the thing. He's a person that learns to be a better person every time. Right? He learns from his mistakes. He learns to be. Hey, I did something wrong. I need to do better. And that's what everyone is kind of like, we think about the mistakes we made, and that's what makes them relatable. And then, you miss that from the MCU Spider-Man because you're like, 100%. I'm not this. Yeah, you're like, I'm not this stupid, okay? Like I wouldn't make this mistake. So it's like he's a little bonkers, that Peter Parker.
Yeah. So, what's your clothing thoughts on this Arkham? Because I know you're a little bit
with
quiet.
Spider-Man. I would say I would like to see like comic accurate Spider-Man where he's not kind of like with the Tom Holland trilogy that we got is like he's not this stupid. Like I want him to be very smart, like how Spider-Man is in the comics. But I don't know how people would react up. Like it would be interesting to see how the audience would react if we got that.
Hopefully we will now. Hopefully he's learned his lesson after all this, and now he's out on his own.
Depends on how the next people write him.
Depends on whoever's.
Definitely
We'll
feels
see.
like a reboot. Yeah, it feels
We'll
like a
see.
reboot.
But yeah, I guess this is gonna end the part 1 of phase 4 because there's just so much, and we're already past 1 hour and a half. I a lot of people have a lot of thoughts. I wanted to try having like 5 people on a panel, so I do apologize if it was kind of uneven, or I'm definitely gonna work on that next time. We're gonna have a different panel of people. I also want to bring on Tony because I'm sure Tony might be a little bit mad at me because I didn't bring him on, and he's the more Marvel expert. Okay, he's the one who will definitely correct us where it needs to be, right, in terms of the comics.
Tony's gotten more wrong in the MCU than he's gotten right. Don't let him.
No, but in terms of,
don't
I'm
let
gonna
him
give
fool
him
you.
his, I'm gonna give him his due, right? He is good at the comic stuff, okay, especially
He knows his lore.
from like anything before the 2000s. If it's anything after the 2000s, I'm gonna school him on. Okay, he can hold that L on that part, correct? He already said he doesn't like modern comics, but
Tony,
anyway,
he's just laughing. Tony, if I wasn't so lazy, I would go back and I'd make a compilation of everything you got wrong in the last 2 years. You've got
remember he said that Tony Stark was gonna be in Multiverse of Madness. He was
said,
like, "Oh, that was definitely Tony Stark."
And I remember it vividly. He said, "No Tom Holland, no Tobey Maguire." He said he doesn't think William Dafoe will be in the movie, even though he was marketed. For
Even he was in the trailer.
He said no to. He said there was going to be no Harrison Ford as Red Hulk. He was wrong.
Yeah, he was not going to get recast.
I could go back and dig it all up, but I'm so lazy and can't be bothered going back through all those live streams to pick it apart. But if somebody else can do that for me, I'll pay them.
You go
pay them good money.
Yo, look, he's already here.
Just so we can. It's like wrong.
He knew he was waiting for this to come up.
You'd only say that because you're wrong.
Oh man, Tony is definitely gonna come on stream. That's gonna be an interesting stream. Oh man,
what copium? This guy's a copium dealer.
Oh man. Anyway, this is gonna conclude the 4th episode. We gone on long enough. The next time we'll talk about phase 4, the second half of phase 4. I also want to do DC. I know Arkham is more DC. Aaron, a lot of other people I want to get on for the DC streams, and hopefully next week James Gunn delivers. If not, there's gonna be riots in the streets. The Snyderverse fans are gonna,
they're right
in the streets.
Implode.
Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting too. So
I don't think they were ever going to support the films anyways. It's like,
we know we've talked about this extensively. They were never going to support even the movies that were coming out this year. They weren't going to support it, right?
It's
so DC is insane. DC, everything happened at DC. I mean, right now they're trying to cancel Zachary Levi. This is just ridiculous.
What did he say anyway?
That cancel culture.
He just made a comment about Pfizer. Listen, this is all just.
Wasn't that like years ago or like?
No, this was just today. That was today.
Holy shit! Okay,
well, but but the context, they took it out of complete. It's out of context what they were doing. So, but anyway, we're gonna end it here. I want to thank my panel, Finbarr, Bob, Arkham, Amazing Monkey. We also got people who stopped by in the chat and people who were just kind of lurking or stopped by, dropped a like. So thanks, Tony. Tony's definitely gonna come on. Tony is gonna hang me if he doesn't come on next time. Okay, so and we got Justy and so thanks to everybody, and that's it. That's the end of the show. Goodbye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Peace.